Have you ever wondered why people buy luxury items? Is it just because they are rich and have nothing better to do with their money, or is there more to it than meets the eye? Well, if you've ever pondered this question, then stick around for this week's video because today we are going to dive into the psychology of those who flaunt expensive toys and find out what makes them tick. Hi, I'm a mental health physiotherapist and I make mental health education videos. Now, when most people think of status symbols, they picture someone driving a flashy sports car or wearing expensive designer clothes. And while this is true in many cases, the psychology behind why certain people feel the need to flaunt these types of symbols is much more complex than meets the eye. So if you're ready to uncover what really motivates these so-called status seekers, keep watching. First, let's define what we mean by status symbols. Status symbols are items or objects that are used to indicate a person's social status, wealth, or power. These symbols can be anything from material possessions like luxury cars or designer clothing to intangible things like job titles or academic degrees. For example, consider someone who buys a luxury car like a Mercedes-Benz or an Audi. At first glance, it might seem like they just want to show off their wealth. However, there's likely a deeper psychological reason behind their purchase decision. The car may symbolize more than just wealth and power. It may also represent success, independence, and freedom from the mundane aspects of everyday life. For instance, the open road represents freedom and the ability to explore new places and experiences without limitations. Driving a luxury car could also evoke feelings of nostalgia, reminding the driver of past successes and achievements. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what's wrong with wanting to own a luxury car or wearing a designer outfit? After all, if you can afford it, why not live a comfortable and luxurious life? Well, there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to own a luxury car or wearing a designer outfit. However, when these desires become obsessive or all-consuming, it's important to take a closer look at the underlying motivations and potential consequences. For example, some individuals may feel compelled to acquire luxury items to compensate for feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. In other words, they may use material possessions as a crutch to prop up their fragile sense of self-worth. This phenomenon is known as the hedonistic adaptation of materialism and was first described by psychologists in the 1980s. Hedonistic adaptation refers to the tendency of humans to quickly become accustomed to a high level of pleasure or satisfaction and to subsequently require even more of it to achieve the same result. In the context of materialism, this means that individuals who are preoccupied with acquiring material possessions may find themselves constantly chasing the next big thing and never feeling truly satisfied. Now, you might be thinking that surely there is a limit to how much stuff any one person could possibly want. But when it comes to luxury items, the answer is often no take. For example, the luxury car buyer who purchases a Mercedes-Benz only to find that after a few months, it no longer brings the same level of excitement and they start eyeing the latest model from Ferrari. This is an example of hedonistic adaptation in action. The individual has become accustomed to the luxury lifestyle afforded by the Mercedes and now requires something even more extravagant to achieve the same level of satisfaction. Another way that the desire for status symbols can manifest itself is through the adoption of a conspicuous consumption pattern. Conspicuous consumption is a term coined by economist Thorstein Veblen in his 1999 book, The Theory of the Leisure Class, to describe the spending of money on and display of luxury goods and services to demonstrate wealth and social status. Veblen argued that conspicuous consumption is driven by a desire for social recognition and emulation, with wealthy individuals engaging in it to set themselves apart from the masses and to be seen as superior. A great example of conspicuous consumption in action is the practice of buying luxury handbags. Handbags are not just functional accessories, but have become status symbols in their own right. Designer handbags from brands like Chanel, Hermes and Louis Vuitton are highly coveted by many women who see them as a sign of wealth and sophistication. In fact, some handbag models have become so iconic that they have been featured in movies and TV shows. For example, the Hermes Kelly bag was named after Grace Kelly, the American actress and former Princess of Monaco, who was often photographed carrying the bag in the 1950s and 60s. The Chanel 2.55 bag is named after its introduction in February 1955 and has since become a classic piece of fashion history. Similarly, the Louis Vuitton Speedy bag was named after the Hollywood actress Judy Garland, who played the role of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. These are just a few examples of how handbags have become status symbols that can signify wealth, power, and social status. But why do people feel the need to flaunt these symbols of wealth and status? What are the underlying psychological factors that drive this behavior? To answer this question, let's delve deeper into the psychology of status seeking and explore some of the key theories that attempt to explain why certain people feel the need to flaunt their wealth and power. One prominent theory is the social comparison theory proposed by Leon Festinger in 1954. This theory suggests that individuals compare themselves to others to gauge their own abilities and opinions. When comparing ourselves to others, we aim to either confirm our existing beliefs or change our perception of ourselves depending on the outcome of the comparison. For example, if we believe we are competent and then receive feedback that contradicts this belief, we may adjust our self-perception accordingly. Social comparison can occur in various contexts, including our appearance, possessions, and social status. When we see someone with a more luxurious lifestyle than our own, it can trigger feelings of envy and dissatisfaction, motivating us to acquire similar symbols of wealth and status. However, the desire for social status and recognition can also be driven by more deeply rooted psychological needs, such as the need for self-esteem and self-worth. According to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-esteem and recognition are part of the higher-order needs that humans strive for after fulfilling their more basic needs for food, water, and shelter. When individuals feel inadequate or undervalued, they may seek external validation and recognition as a way to boost their self-esteem. Acquiring status symbols such as luxury items or high-paying jobs can provide the validation and recognition that these individuals crave. But the need for status and recognition is not the only psychological factor that drives people to flaunt their wealth. Some individuals may also be motivated by a desire for control and power over others. In a society that values material possessions and financial success, those who accumulate wealth and status symbols may feel a sense of control and power over those who have less. This can be particularly appealing to individuals who have experienced feelings of helplessness or lack of control in other areas of their lives. For example, someone who struggles with shyness or social anxiety may seek to compensate by dominating conversations about their wealth and success. Acquiring status symbols can also be driven by a fear of being perceived as losers or failures. In a culture that emphasizes success and achievement, those who do not conform to societal expectations may be stigmatized and labeled as losers or failures. This can be especially damaging to individuals who have high self-esteem and take great pride in their accomplishments. To protect their self-image, they may engage in behaviors that demonstrate their success and achievement, such as flaunting their wealth or acquiring prestigious awards and recognition. It is important to note that not everyone who owns or wears status symbols is motivated by the same psychological factors. Each individual will have their unique set of needs and desires that drive their behavior. However, understanding these common motivations can help us to better understand the psychology of those who flaunt their wealth and the underlying reasons for their behavior. So there you have it, a look into the psychology of those who flaunt their money. Remember, owning or wearing status symbols is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a way for people to feel validated and recognized for their accomplishments. However, when the desire for status and recognition becomes obsessive or all-consuming, it may be helpful to take a step back and consider the underlying motivations and potential consequences. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated on my latest content. As always, thanks for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.